Commander Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the warship Eternal Fang, watching the storm clouds roll across Kepler 442b below. The acidic rain fell in sheets so thick that nothing could be seen through them. Lightning the color of blood crackled between the clouds, each bolt carrying enough energy to power a small city. "Beautiful, is it not?" Admiral So-young said as she joined him at the observation window. Her gray skin bore the ritual scars of a true warrior, each mark telling the story of a world conquered. Hyun-woo nodded. Through the toxic atmosphere, he could see the native cities burning. The Keplerians had fought well for a species that had never left their own world. Their natural armor plating had evolved to protect them from the acid storms. Their warriors could breathe the poisonous air that would kill most other beings in minutes. They were strong, proud, and completely outmatched. 3 days. So-young continued. That is all it took to break them. They will make excellent additions to our forces once they understand their place. The Vorthak Empire had been built on a simple truth. Only the strongest species deserved to rule the galaxy. Strength came from hardship, and hardship came from Deathworlds. For 3,000 years, the Empire had sought out the most dangerous planets they could find. They conquered the species that lived there, adding their strength to the Empire's growing power. Hyun-woo remembered his first Deathworld conquest 15 years ago. Titan 7 was a frozen wasteland where the native Cryonians lived inside volcanoes. The cold outside could freeze blood solid in seconds. The heat inside the volcanoes could melt steel. Yet the Cryonians thrived in both environments. They became valuable shock troops for the Empire. "Commander," Tactical Officer Jaemin called from his station. "We are receiving a transmission from Deep Space Scout Division." "Put it through," So-young ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Captain Dong-sik of the scout ship Farseeker. His expression was excited, the kind of look that meant he had found something interesting. "Admiral, we have discovered a new system approximately 47 light-years from our current position. Initial scans show promise." "What classification?" Hyun-woo asked. "The system contains 9 planets. The 3rd planet shows signs of intelligent life. Preliminary analysis suggests it is a Class 4 death world." So-young's eyes gleamed with interest. Class 4 death worlds were rare. Most planets that hostile did not develop intelligent life at all. Those that did usually produced species of exceptional quality. "Tell me about this world," she commanded. Dong-sik consulted his datapad. "The planet experiences extreme weather variations. Temperatures range from -40 degrees in some regions to +50 degrees in others. The surface shows evidence of massive tectonic activity. Volcanic eruptions occur regularly across multiple continents. Storm systems the size of small moons are common. And the inhabitants? That is where it becomes truly interesting, Admiral. The species calls themselves humans. They appear to have spread across the entire planet, living in all climate zones. Their technology level is approximately equivalent to our own from 800 years ago, but advancing rapidly." Hyun-woo felt a familiar thrill. A species tough enough to live on a Class 4 death world, intelligent enough to develop advanced technology, and numerous enough to populate an entire planet. They would make powerful allies or valuable slaves. "What do we know of their military capabilities?" So-young asked. "They possess nuclear weapons, orbital satellites, and basic spaceflight capability. However, their forces appear to be divided among multiple nations rather than unified under a single command. This should make conquest significantly easier." So-young smiled, showing her sharp teeth. The Vorthak had evolved on Vorth Prime, a world where everything was designed to kill. The gravity was 3 times standard galactic norm. The atmosphere contained trace amounts of sulfur that would poison most species over time. Acid geysers erupted without warning from the ground. Predators the size of buildings roamed the surface. It had made them strong enough to build an empire that spanned half the galaxy. "Prepare the 3rd Fleet for departure," So-young ordered. "I want to see these humans for myself." As the crew began making preparations, Hyun-woo studied the data files on humanity's homeworld. The planet they called Earth was indeed impressive. Mountain ranges that reached into the clouds, oceans deep enough to hide continents, deserts where The sun could cook exposed flesh in minutes, frozen wastelands where the cold could shatter bones. Yet the humans lived everywhere. They built cities in the frozen north and thriving settlements in burning deserts. They sailed across violent oceans and climbed the highest mountains. Most remarkably, they did it all with relatively fragile bodies compared to other Deathworld species. How do they survive? He wondered aloud. Lieutenant Yunji, the ship's xenobiologist, looked up from her own analysis. They appear to use tools and technology to compensate for physical limitations. Rather than evolving thicker skin for cold environments, they create artificial coverings. Instead of developing gills for underwater exploration, they build mechanical breathing devices. Clever, Hyunwoo admitted, but cleverness will not save them from the Empire. The Vorthak had a simple system for categorizing worlds and their inhabitants. Garden worlds produced weak species suited only for slavery or elimination. Standard worlds with moderate challenges could produce useful workers. Death worlds produced warriors worthy of joining the Empire's forces. Class 1 Death worlds had basic environmental hazards: extreme weather, dangerous wildlife, or toxic atmospheres. The inhabitants usually developed one or two specific adaptations to survive. Class 2 Death worlds combined multiple environmental threats. Species from these worlds typically showed enhanced physical capabilities and aggressive tendencies. Class 3 Death worlds were actively hostile to most forms of life. Only the strongest and most adaptable species could evolve there. These beings made excellent soldiers and commanders. Class 4 Death worlds were rare prizes. Planets so dangerous that most survey teams refused to land on them. The species that survived such environments invariably possessed exceptional qualities that made them valuable additions to the Empire. Class 5 Death worlds were theoretical. Planets so hostile that the Empire had never found intelligent life on one. Most scientists believed that such worlds simply could not support the development of civilization. As for Class 6 Death worlds, they existed only in academic papers as examples of worlds that could not possibly sustain any form of life at all. Admiral, Communications Officer Min Ho reported, "The Third Fleet reports ready for departure." "Excellent," So Young replied. "Set course for this Earth. It is time to welcome humanity into the Empire." Hyunwoo watched the stars begin to move as the fleet entered hyperspace. Soon they would reach this death world called Earth. They would meet these humans who had somehow learned to thrive in such a hostile environment. The Empire would grow stronger, as it always did. He had no way of knowing that everything he believed about death worlds and the species that lived on them was about to change forever. The humans waiting for them in that distant system would challenge every assumption the Vorthak had made about strength, survival, and what it truly meant to live on a world that wanted you dead. The journey to Earth would take 14 days. 14 days before the Vorthak Empire encountered something that would shake the foundations of their 3,000-year-old civilization. Something they had never seen before, and were completely unprepared to understand. Scout Captain Jamin floated in the darkness of space, his ship hidden behind Earth's moon. For 3 days he and his crew had watched the blue and green planet below. The humans had no idea they were being observed. "Captain," sensor operator, Hyung-ho called softly, "I am detecting another human orbital station. That makes 47 active satellites and 6 space stations." Jamin nodded, adding the information to his growing report. The humans were more advanced than the initial scans had suggested. Their space presence was small but growing rapidly. More importantly, their satellites showed signs of military capability. "What troubles me," Lieutenant Yoonji said from her biology station, "is how different they all are." She was right. Every other Death World species the Empire had encountered showed clear signs of unified evolution. The Cryonians were all pale and resistant to temperature extremes. The Keplerians all had thick armor plating. The Titanborn all possessed enhanced strength and bone density. But humans were bewildering in their variety. Jamin had observed humans with skin ranging from nearly white to deep brown. Some were tall and thin, others short and broad. Some lived in frozen wastelands, others in burning deserts. And they all looked different from each other. Perhaps they evolved in isolated groups, suggested Navigation Officer He-jin. Different regions of their death world created different adaptations. That would explain the physical differences, Yoonji agreed. But look at their behavior patterns. She displayed her analysis on the main screen. Humans in the frozen regions built structures from ice and hunted large predators with primitive weapons. Humans in desert regions created underground cities and cultivated plants in soil that should have been barren. Humans in temperate zones built massive cities that housed millions of individuals. They show no single survival strategy, Yoonji continued. Every other death world species we know developed one primary method of dealing with their hostile environment. But humans seem to have developed dozens of different approaches. Jamin studied the data. It was true. The Vorthak had survived their death world by becoming physically superior to everything on it. The Cryonians had learned to control temperature. The Keplerians had developed armor that could withstand anything their world threw at them. Humans appeared to survive by being unpredictable. Captain, Communications Officer Wu Jin interrupted. We are receiving a transmission from Admiral So Young. The main fleet has arrived at the edge of the system. Put her through. The Admiral's stern face appeared on the screen. Report, Captain Jamin. The humans are more complex than we anticipated, Admiral. They show remarkable diversity in both physical appearance and survival strategies. However, their military technology remains inferior to ours. Excellent. Are they ready for first contact? Jamin hesitated. Something felt wrong about the situation, but he could not identify what it was. They appear to be monitoring space around their planet. They will detect our arrival. Good. I want them to see us coming. Fear makes the surrender process much faster. The transmission ended, and Jamin watched as the Vorthak Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 37 ships, including the massive flagship Eternal Fang. Enough firepower to sterilize a planet's surface 3 times over. The human response was immediate. Every satellite turned toward the fleet. Radio transmissions flooded all available frequencies. The 6 space stations began coordinating with surface installations. They are frightened, Young Ho observed with satisfaction. But Yoonji was frowning at her readings. Captain, I am detecting something unusual in their communications. What is it? The transmission patterns suggest excitement rather than fear, and they are broadcasting on multiple frequencies simultaneously, as if they want to ensure we receive their messages. Before Jamin could respond, his communications board lit up with incoming transmissions. Dozens of them, all from the human planet below. Put the strongest signal through, he ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was calm, almost cheerful. The translation matrix took a moment to process the alien language. Greetings, visitors from space. This is Ambassador Dong Hyun of the United Nations of Earth. We welcome you to our solar system and extend an invitation to visit our world as our honored guests. We have prepared facilities for your comfort and look forward to cultural exchange with your people. The bridge fell silent. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever invited the Vorthak to visit their world. Most begged for mercy. Some demanded they leave. A few tried to attack. None had ever offered hospitality. It must be a translation error, Wu Jin said uncertainly. Run it through the matrix again, Jamin ordered. The message came through identically. An invitation, not a surrender, not a threat, not a plea for mercy. An invitation to come visit their death world as guests. Captain, Young Ho called. I am detecting movement from the human space stations. They are adjusting orbit to form a greeting formation. Jamin stared at the tactical display. The human stations were indeed moving, but not into defensive positions. They were arranging themselves in what could only be described as a welcoming pattern. This is unprecedented, Yoonji whispered. More transmissions came in. Scientists eager to share research, artists wanting to exchange cultural works, children sending drawings of what they imagined aliens might look like. It was as if the entire human race was excited about making new friends rather than terrified of being conquered. Are they insane? Hyejin asked. Jamin was beginning to wonder the same thing. Every Deathworld species possessed strong survival instincts. That was how they lived through their hostile environments. But the humans were acting as if 37 warships represented no threat at all. Perhaps, Yunji said slowly, they do not recognize the threat we represent. How could they not? Our ships are clearly military vessels. Look at their own orbital installations, she replied. Many of them appear to have both scientific and military capabilities. Perhaps they assume we are explorers rather than conquerors. Jamin considered this. It was possible. The humans were a young species new to space travel. They might not understand the implications of an armed fleet entering their system. But there was another possibility, one that made his spine tingle with unease. What if the humans did understand, and simply were not afraid? Captain Wu Jin reported, Admiral So Young is requesting an immediate report on human response to our arrival. Jamin looked around his bridge at his confused crew. How could he explain that the humans had responded to their arrival with joy rather than terror? That they were sending party invitations instead of surrender terms? Tell the Admiral that. Human response has been unexpected. I recommend extreme caution in our approach. As he composed his official report, Jamin watched the blue world turning slowly below them. Somewhere on its surface, billions of humans were preparing to welcome visitors from the stars. They lived on a Class 4 death world, surrounded by dangers that would kill most species. Yet they faced the unknown with curiosity rather than fear. For the first time in his military career, Scout Captain Jamin began to wonder if the Vorthak Empire truly understood what strength meant. The answer to that question would come soon enough. Fleet Commander Minho stepped off the shuttle onto the landing platform in what the humans called Seoul. The gravity felt normal, which was surprising. Most death worlds had crushing weight that made movement difficult for visiting species. The air tasted strange, rich with unfamiliar scents. But it was breathable without assistance, another oddity. Most Class 4 death worlds required breathing equipment for safe exploration. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Dong Hyun said with a warm smile. He was shorter than most Vorthak, with dark hair and skin that showed no signs of environmental adaptation. We are honored by your visit. Behind Minho, Dr. Hyejin was already taking atmospheric readings. Her expression grew more puzzled with each measurement. Commander, she whispered, these readings do not match our initial scans. What do you mean? According to our instruments, this environment should be lethal to most carbon-based life forms. The oxygen concentration is too high, the atmospheric pressure is wrong, and there are trace gases that should be toxic, yet the humans are walking around without any protection at all. Minho studied their human hosts. Ambassador Dong Hyun looked perfectly comfortable in conditions that Dr. Hyejin claimed should kill him. Other humans moved about the landing area, going about their normal business as if deadly air was perfectly natural. Perhaps our equipment is malfunctioning, suggested Security Chief Kyung-soo. But Dr. Hyejin shook her head. I have run diagnostics 3 times. The equipment is functioning perfectly. The problem is with the planet itself. Ambassador Dong Hyun led them through the city, pointing out various human achievements. The buildings were tall but not particularly impressive by galactic standards. The technology was adequate but not advanced. What disturbed Minho was how normal everything appeared. This was supposed to be a death world. Where were the defensive walls, the emergency shelters, the constant vigilance that marked every other hostile environment settlement he had visited? Ambassador, Minho said carefully, your world is classified as extremely dangerous, yet your people seem very relaxed. Dong Hyun looked confused. Dangerous? Earth is quite peaceful, actually. We have had some problems with climate change recently, but nothing too serious. Climate change. Minho exchanged glances with Dr. Hyejin. On most worlds, climate change meant minor temperature variations over thousands of years. What did it mean on a death world? Could you explain what you mean by climate change? Dr. Hyejin asked. Oh, the usual, Dong Hyun replied casually. Rising sea levels, more frequent hurricanes, temperature increases, some new desert formation. Nothing we cannot handle with proper planning. Dr. Hyjin stopped walking. Did you say hurricanes? Yes. We get quite a few during hurricane season. Would you like to visit one of our weather monitoring stations? We have some fascinating data on storm formation. Minho felt a chill that had nothing to do with the alien atmosphere. Hurricanes were massive storm systems that could destroy cities. Most civilized worlds had weather control systems to prevent such disasters. The humans spoke of them like minor inconveniences. How often do these hurricanes occur? He asked. Depends on the region and season, Donghyun said thoughtfully. The Atlantic might see 15 or 20 major storms per year. The Pacific can have even more. But people in those areas know how to prepare. 20 major storm systems per year. In a single ocean. Dr. Hyejin looked like she might faint. Their tour continued to a research facility where they met Dr. Subin, a human environmental scientist. She was eager to share information about Earth's climate systems. Earth is really quite stable compared to what it used to be, she explained cheerfully. We only have major ice ages every 100,000 years or so now. And supervolcanic eruptions are quite rare, maybe one every 70,000 years. Major ice ages, Dr. Hyjin whispered. Oh yes, Subin continued. During the last ice age, most of the northern continents were covered in ice sheets several kilometers thick. Completely uninhabitable, of course. The human population dropped to just a few thousand individuals. And they survived? Minho asked in disbelief. Well, obviously, Subin laughed. Otherwise we would not be here talking to you. Humans are quite adaptable. We migrated to warmer regions and waited for the ice to melt. Dr. Hyejin was frantically taking notes. Dr. Subin, could you tell us about these supervolcanic eruptions? The most recent one was about 74,000 years ago. Mount Toba in Indonesia. The ash cloud blocked out the sun for several years and caused global cooling. Most plant life died, which made food quite scarce. How did humans survive that? Subin shrugged. The same way we always do. We adapted, ate different foods, lived in caves, made better tools. The population dropped quite a bit, but humans are good at recovering from disasters. Minho excused himself and contacted the fleet. Admiral So Young, we need to revise our planetary classification. Is the world less dangerous than we thought? So Young's voice crackled through the communicator. No, Admiral. It is far more dangerous. Our initial assessment was completely wrong. That evening, Dr. Hyejin presented her findings to the landing team. Her expression was grim. Commanders, we have made a serious error in our planetary classification system. Earth is not a Class 4 death world. What classification would you assign it? Asked Minho. Dr. Hyejin hesitated. According to our standards, it should not have a classification at all. It should not be possible for intelligent life to exist here. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's environmental systems. This planet experiences regular mass extinction events, ice ages that sterilize most of the surface, volcanic eruptions that block sunlight for years, asteroid impacts that create global firestorms, solar radiation fluctuations that destroy the ozone layer. The room fell silent. Furthermore, she continued. The planet sits in an unstable star system. Solar output varies unpredictably. The magnetic field fluctuates, allowing deadly radiation to reach the surface. Tectonic activity reshapes continents regularly. By our standards, this world should be completely lifeless. Yet humans live here comfortably, Minho said. That is what makes them impossible, Dr. Hyejin replied. They did not just evolve to survive one type of hostile environment. They evolved to survive every type of hostile environment simultaneously. Security. Chief Kyung-soo leaned forward. Are you saying they are more dangerous than we initially believed? I am saying they represent something we have never encountered before. Every other species we know developed specific adaptations for specific threats. The Cryonians adapted to cold and heat. The Keplerians adapted to acid and crushing pressure. The Titanborn adapted to high gravity and toxic atmospheres. And humans? Dr. He-jin looked around the room at her fellow officers. Humans adapted to extinction itself. They do not just survive hostile environments. They survive the complete destruction of their biosphere and rebuild from nothing. The implications hung heavy in the air. The Vorthak Empire had built its power by conquering Deathworld species. They understood how to fight beings adapted to specific environmental challenges. But how do you conquer a species that treats the end of the world as just another problem to solve? Min-ho opened his communicator again. Admiral So-young, I strongly recommend we abort this mission and return to Empire space immediately. Explain. Min-ho looked at Dr. Hai-jin, who nodded grimly. Admiral, we have not discovered a Deathworld species suitable for conquest. We have discovered something that should not exist. Back aboard the flagship Eternal Fang, Admiral So-young stared at the reports from the surface team. 3 days of contact with humans had produced more questions than answers about Earth's inhabitants. General Kyung-soo, she said to her military advisor, what is your assessment of human combat capability? The scarred veteran reviewed his tactical data. Based on their historical records, humans are among the most dangerous warriors we have ever encountered. But not for the reasons we expected. He activated the briefing display. Most Deathworld species fight to defend territory or resources. Their warfare follows predictable patterns based on their environmental adaptations. But human warfare is different. How different? They fight each other constantly, Admiral. Not just for survival, but for ideas, beliefs, and concepts that have no physical form. They have developed weapons specifically designed to kill other humans, not environmental threats. So-young frowned. That makes no sense. Why would a species waste energy fighting itself when its environment is already trying to kill it? That is what makes them paradoxical, General Kyung-soo replied. According to our xenobiologist cultural attaché In-young, humans deliberately seek out danger when they have no logical reason to do so. Cultural attaché In-young stepped forward. Her expression was troubled. Admiral, I have studied human recreational activities and they disturb me greatly. Explain. Humans engage in behaviors that serve no survival purpose and actively increase their risk of death. They jump from high places with minimal safety equipment. They race vehicles at speeds that guarantee fatal accidents. They climb mountains that offer no strategic or resource value. Perhaps these are training exercises for military purposes, suggested General Kyung-soo. In-young shook her head. No, sir, these are entertainment activities. Humans do dangerous things because they enjoy danger itself. Admiral So-young felt a chill run down her spine. Every other species in the galaxy avoided unnecessary risks. Survival instincts demanded careful behavior and risk assessment. The idea of seeking danger for pleasure was completely alien. There is more, In-young continued. I observed human children at play. They were engaged in activities that would terrify the young of most species, throwing themselves through the air, wrestling with each other, racing down steep inclines on primitive vehicles. Were they being trained for combat? No, Admiral. They called it fun. The briefing room fell. Silent, the implications were staggering. If human children treated dangerous activities as entertainment, what were adult humans capable of? Military analyst Wu Jin raised his hand. Admiral, I have reviewed human military history, and I believe we are facing an unprecedented threat. Continue. Human. Warfare shows tactical sophistication that exceeds our own in several areas. More importantly, their conflicts demonstrate a level of strategic cruelty that surpasses even our most ruthless campaigns. Wu Jin displayed historical data. In their most recent global conflict, humans developed weapons capable of destroying entire cities instantly. They used these weapons only twice before deciding they were too dangerous to use again. They showed restraint? General Kyung-soo asked. No, sir. They showed fear. Fear of their own weapons. Humans created something so destructive that it frightened, even them, then spent the following decades building more of them. Admiral So-young studied the data. How many of these city-destroying weapons do they possess? Approximately 15,000, Admiral. enough to sterilize their entire planet several times over. The room fell silent again. 15,000 weapons capable of ending civilization, created by a species that lived on a world that regularly tried to end civilization naturally. Admiral, Communications Officer Minho reported, "We are receiving another transmission from the surface team. Put it through." Fleet Commander Minho appeared on the screen. Behind him, several humans were visible, preparing what appeared to be a meal. "Admiral, we have encountered a significant problem." "What is it?" "The humans invited us to dinner. Dr. Hyejin and 3 other crew members are in medical isolation after consuming human food." So Young leaned forward. "Were they poisoned deliberately?" "No, Admiral. The humans were horrified when our people became ill. They immediately provided medical assistance and apologized profusely. The problem is that normal human food contains compounds that are lethal to most galactic species." "Lethal how?" Dr. Hyejin's weak voice came through the communicator from the medical bay. "Admiral, human food contains capsaicin, caffeine, alcohol, and dozens of other compounds that most species cannot process. They eat these substances regularly without any apparent harm." "Are you saying humans are naturally poisonous?" "I am saying they have adapted to consume toxins as part of their regular diet. What we consider deadly chemicals, they consider flavor enhancement." Admiral So Young felt the situation spiraling beyond her understanding. A species that lived on an impossible world, treated extinction events as minor inconveniences, sought danger for entertainment, created weapons that frightened themselves, and ate poison for pleasure. "There is one more thing, Fleet Commander," Minho continued. "The humans mentioned that they consider Earth to be a relatively calm planet." "Explain." "They indicated that they are planning expeditions to what they call more interesting worlds in their solar system. They specifically mentioned a planet with sulfuric acid rain and another with methane storms as potential vacation destinations." "Admiral," So Young stood up abruptly. "Vacation destinations?" "Yes, Admiral. They appear to consider worlds that would kill most species instantly to be recreational opportunities." General Kyung-soo turned to face So Young. "Admiral, I request permission to begin immediate military preparations. If humans are this dangerous unintentionally, we need to consider what they might be capable of if they actually intended harm." But Cultural Attaché In Young was shaking her head. "General, I do not believe military action would be effective against humans." "Why not?" "Because they do not appear to understand that they are dangerous. They treat their impossible survival abilities as completely normal. They do not realize that other species find them terrifying." "That makes them more dangerous, not less," General Kyung-soo argued. "Perhaps," In Young replied. "But it also means they have no aggressive intentions toward us. They genuinely want to be friends." Admiral So Young looked around the briefing room at her confused officers. In 30 years of military service, she had never encountered a strategic situation like this one. "Admiral," Navigation Officer Hae-jin called from her station, "we are detecting unusual activity from the human space installations." "What kind of activity?" "They appear to be constructing something. Based on the materials being moved, it looks like they are building additional landing facilities." Admiral So Young accessed the tactical display. The humans were indeed expanding their orbital infrastructure, but not for military purposes. They were building bigger platforms to accommodate more alien visitors. "They are preparing for more guests," she realized aloud. The truth hit her like a physical blow. The humans were not afraid of the Vorthak Empire. They were not preparing for conquest or resistance. They were planning a party. Somewhere on the impossible world below, billions of humans were excitedly preparing to welcome more visitors from the stars. They lived on a planet that regularly experienced apocalyptic disasters. They ate poison, they sought danger for fun, and their response to meeting alien conquerors was to build better landing pads. Admiral So Young sat back down heavily in her command chair. "Admiral?" General Kyung-soo asked. "Your orders?" So Young stared at the blue and green world turning slowly below them. For the first time in her career, she had absolutely no idea what to do next. Supreme Chancellor He Young stood before the assembled Imperial Council on the capital world of Vorth Prime. Around the massive table sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy, representatives of 1,000 conquered worlds, all waiting for her decision about humanity. Intelligence Officer Seok Jin, she said, present your analysis of human expansion patterns. Seok Jin activated the holographic display showing human space exploration plans. Chancellor, the data is deeply troubling. Unlike every other species we have encountered, humans do not expand cautiously to compatible worlds. The display showed human colony proposals, each more alarming than the last. They have identified 17 target worlds for colonization within the next century. 12 of these are classified as uninhabitable by our standards. 3 are Class 5 Deathworlds that our own survey teams refuse to land on. What about the other 2? Asked Defense Minister Jong-ho. Seok Jin hesitated. Chancellor, we have no classification for them. According to our measurements, they should not be able to support any form of life, yet humans are planning to establish permanent settlements there. Council member Tae-ho, representative of the Cryonian Systems, leaned forward. Are they using terraforming technology? No, sir. They plan to adapt themselves to the environment rather than changing the environment to suit them. They seem to view hostile conditions as interesting challenges rather than insurmountable obstacles. Chancellor He Young studied the data. Human expansion plans read like a survey of the galaxy's most dangerous locations. Worlds with crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres, radioactive surfaces, and unstable stars. Show them the recreational data, she ordered. The display changed to show human leisure activities. The council watched in stunned silence as humans deliberately threw themselves from aircraft, descended into active volcanoes, swam with predators capable of killing them instantly, and climbed vertical rock faces for no practical reason. They do this for pleasure? Asked Council Member Subin of the Keplerians. Yes, Seok-jin replied. What other species consider survival necessities, humans treat as entertainment. They have an entire industry built around providing dangerous experiences to people seeking excitement. They seek danger, Council Member Insu whispered. By choice. The implications were staggering. The Vorthek Empire had built its power by being stronger than their hostile environment. Other Deathworld species had developed similar strategies. But humans had done something completely different. They had made friends with danger itself. Defense Minister Jong-ho, Chancellor He Young said, "What are your military projections for a conflict with humanity?" Jong-ho looked uncomfortable. Chancellor, our standard Deathworld conquest strategies are useless against humans. Explain. Traditional conquest relies on overwhelming force to break enemy resistance. But humans show no fear of overwhelming force. They respond to impossible odds with excitement rather than despair. What about siege tactics? Ineffective. Humans are accustomed to surviving in environments where basic necessities are scarce. They can live on resources that would not sustain other species. Environmental warfare? Jong-ho shook his head. Humans adapt to environmental changes faster than we can implement them. Poison their air, they develop breathing equipment. Irradiate their water, they find new sources. Block their sunlight, they grow food underground. Chancellor He Young felt the weight of 3,000 years of imperial strategy crumbling around her. Every tool the Empire possessed for dealing with other species was useless against humans. What about their weaknesses? She asked desperately. That is the most disturbing aspect of our analysis, Jong-ho replied. We cannot identify any significant weaknesses. Their technology is advancing rapidly. Their population is growing. Their expansion plans show no signs of slowing. They must have some vulnerability. If they do, Chancellor, we have not found it. Humans appear to treat every obstacle as a problem to solve rather than a barrier to avoid. Young Vorthak Officer Shiwu raised his hand hesitantly. Chancellor, I spent time working with the humans during the recent crisis. May I speak? Continue. I observed something that may be relevant. Humans do not view survival as an individual effort. When faced with impossible challenges, they work together in ways that multiply their individual capabilities. All species cooperate for survival, Council Member Wu Jin pointed out. Not like humans, Shiwu replied. When disaster struck, they did not compete for resources or abandon the weak. Instead, they shared everything they had and ensured everyone survived together. Their strength does not come from individual superiority. It comes from collective adaptation. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire had always conquered by identifying and defeating the strongest individuals of each species, but humans drew their strength from their entire population, working as one adaptive organism. Chancellor, Communications Officer Nayung reported, "We are receiving another message from the human government." What do they want now? They are asking if we would like to participate in what they call a joint scientific expedition to a nearby star system. They mentioned something about exploring a very interesting Class 5 death world together. Chancellor, Hae-young closed her eyes. Even now, faced with the most powerful military force in the galaxy, humans were still trying to make friends and find new dangerous places to visit. Chancellor, Defense Minister Jong-ho said quietly, "I need to inform you of our final analysis." What is it? If humans continue expanding at their current rate, with their current survival capabilities, they will eventually encounter worlds that make even their impossible death world look hospitable. And they will adapt to those worlds as well. Within a few thousand years, humans could become capable of surviving anywhere in the galaxy, under any conditions. The truth hit Chancellor Hae-young like a physical blow. The Vorthak Empire had spent 3 millennia conquering Deathworld species because they believed such species were superior. But humans represented something beyond superiority. They represented evolution itself become self-aware and directed. Chancellor, Intelligence Officer Seok-jin said, "There is one more thing. The humans have made several casual references to other interesting challenges they hope to explore someday. Such as, they mentioned wanting to visit other galaxies. The Imperial Council sat in stunned silence. Other galaxies. Humans were not content with conquering the most dangerous worlds in their own galaxy. They wanted to find entirely new galaxies, full of entirely new dangers to explore and adapt to." Chancellor Hae-young stood up slowly. For 3,000 years, the Vorthak Empire had been the apex predator of the galaxy, conquering everything strong enough to be worth conquering. Now they had encountered something that did not want to be conquered or to conquer others. Humans wanted something far more dangerous than dominion over the galaxy. They wanted to explore it, befriend it, and ultimately transcend it entirely. "Council members," Chancellor Hae-young said, "I am calling for an emergency session to discuss a complete revision of our imperial strategy." "What kind of revision?" asked Defense Minister Jong-ho. Chancellor Hae-young looked out the viewport at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, humans were planning their next impossible adventure. "We need to decide whether we want to try to stop them or ask if we can come along." The earthquake struck just after dawn. Fleet Commander Minho was meeting with human scientists in Seoul when the ground began to shake violently. Buildings swayed like trees in a storm, and the air filled with the sound of breaking glass and twisting metal. "Everyone remain calm," called Human Emergency Coordinator Junho over the building's intercom system. "This is a magnitude 7.2 earthquake. Please follow standard safety procedures." Standard safety procedures. Minho stared at the human official in disbelief. The ground was literally breaking apart beneath their feet, and the humans were treating it like a routine event. Through the shattered windows, he could see massive cracks opening in the streets. Steam and sulfur gas rose from the earth as underground volcanic systems activated. By Vorthak standards, this was the beginning of a planetary extinction event. But the humans around him simply moved to designated safe areas and waited for the shaking to stop. "Is this normal?" Minho asked Dr. Subin, the environmental scientist who had been showing him around the facility. "Oh yes," she replied calmly. "We get several major earthquakes per year in this region. This one is a bit stronger than usual, but nothing we cannot handle." Nothing they could not handle. Minho watched as emergency response teams deployed across the city within minutes of the quake ending. They moved with practiced efficiency, as if responding to major geological disasters was part of their daily routine, which, he realized with growing horror, it probably was. Commander Minho, his communicator crackled. This is Admiral So-Young. Report your status immediately. Admiral, the surface team is safe. The humans are implementing disaster response protocols. Understood. Prepare for immediate evacuation. Our sensors indicate massive volcanic activity beginning across the region. Minho looked at Dr. Subin. The Admiral says volcanic eruptions are starting. That makes sense, she nodded. Major earthquakes often trigger volcanic activity in this part of the world. Mount Fuji has been overdue for an eruption anyway. Overdue? It erupts approximately every 300 years. The last major eruption was in 1707, so we have been expecting another one. Minho felt dizzy. The humans had been expecting a volcanic eruption for decades and simply continued living normally while waiting for it to happen. Dr. Subin, should we not evacuate the area? She looked puzzled. Why would we do that? We have excellent disaster preparedness systems. Would you like to see how we handle volcanic eruptions? Before Minho could answer, young Vorthak officer Shi Wu approached. Commander, I have been working with the human volunteer teams. You need to see this. Shi Wu led him to a coordination center where hundreds of humans were organizing rescue operations. The scene should have been chaos, with people panicking about the disaster. Instead, it looked more like a well-rehearsed training exercise. Commander, Shi Wu said quietly, I have been working alongside a human volunteer named Yunsu for the past 6 hours. She is not a trained emergency responder. She works in what they call accounting, but she has been directing rescue operations in areas that would require full environmental suits for our people. Minho watched as Yunsu coordinated teams searching through collapsed buildings. She moved through clouds of toxic volcanic gas without breathing equipment, walked across ground too hot for most species to touch, and remained completely calm while organizing efforts to save people trapped in impossible conditions. How is she doing this? Minho asked. That is what disturbs me, Shi Wu replied. When I asked her, she said this is just what humans do during emergencies. She seemed surprised that I found it impressive. A new tremor shook the building, followed by a deep rumbling sound from the direction of Mount Fuji. Through the windows, they could see a column of ash and fire rising into the sky. The volcano is erupting, Minho said. Excellent, said Yunsu, appearing beside them with a tablet full of logistics data. We have been preparing for this possibility. The ash cloud will affect air travel for several days, but our ground transportation networks can handle the increased load. She spoke as if a massive volcanic eruption was a minor scheduling inconvenience. Yunsu, Minho said carefully, are you not concerned about the danger? She looked genuinely confused. What danger? We have evacuation procedures for areas in immediate risk. Everyone else just needs to stay indoors until the ash settles. It is really quite manageable. Manageable. Minho watched as humans continued their rescue operations, while a volcanic eruption raged in the background. They did not just survive disasters that would destroy most civilizations, they incorporated such disasters into their normal planning processes. His communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Admiral So-Young. All personnel return to ships immediately. This is a direct order. But as Minho prepared to leave, he realized something that changed everything. The Vorthak were preparing to flee from conditions that humans considered routine. In all their encounters with Deathworld species, the Vorthak had always been the strongest, the most capable of surviving hostile environments. For the first time in their history, they were the weak ones. Commander, Yunsu called as he headed for the exit. Are you leaving already? We were hoping you could stay for the recovery celebration tomorrow. We always have a party after major disasters to celebrate everyone who helped. A party. After a volcanic eruption. To celebrate disaster response. Minho stopped walking. In that moment, he understood something profound about humans that all their analysis had missed. Humans did not just survive impossible conditions. They found joy in surviving impossible conditions together. Yunsu, he said slowly, would it be possible for some of my people to help with the recovery efforts? Her face lit up with genuine delight. That would be wonderful. We could really use the extra hands, and it would be a great chance for cultural exchange. 2 hours later, Minho found himself working alongside human volunteers in conditions that should have required emergency evacuation. Volcanic ash fell like snow around them. The air tasted of sulfur and smoke. The ground still shook with aftershocks. And somehow, it felt completely normal. "This is impossible," Officer Shaiwu said as he helped carry supplies through the ash-covered streets. "What is impossible?" asked Junho, the human coordinator. "We are having a conversation while walking through a volcanic eruption zone." Junho laughed. "Well, the eruption is 15 kilometers away. We are perfectly safe here. Besides, this ash is nothing compared to what our grandparents dealt with during the Mount Tambora eruption." Shiwu stopped walking. "There have been worse eruptions?" "Oh yes," Junho replied casually. "Tambora blocked out the sun for almost 2 years. That was challenging. But humans adapted. We always do." That evening, as promised, the humans held their celebration party. Despite the ongoing volcanic activity and the citywide cleanup efforts, thousands of people gathered to honor the rescue teams and volunteers. Minho watched Admiral So Young arrive via shuttle, her expression grim. She approached him through the crowd of celebrating humans. "Commander, I ordered you to return to the fleet hours ago. Admiral, I believe we need to reconsider our entire approach to humanity." "Explain." Minho gestured to the party around them. "Look at them, Admiral. They just survived what we would classify as a planetary disaster. Their response is to throw a party and invite us to join them. They are clearly insane." Admiral So Young replied, "No," Minho said quietly. "They are something we have never encountered before. They are not stronger than their environment. They have made their environment part of themselves." Before Admiral So Young could respond, Ambassador Dong Hyun approached them with 2 other humans. "Admiral So Young," he said warmly, "I am so glad you could join our celebration. I would like you to meet Dr. Haijun, our head of space exploration, and Captain Byung-soo, who leads our deep space survey program." "Honored to meet you," Dr. Haijun said enthusiastically. "Ambassador Dong Hyun tells us you have experience with many different types of worlds. We would love to learn about the most challenging environments you have encountered." "The most challenging?" Admiral So Young asked. "Yes," Captain Byung-soo added. "We are always looking for new places to explore. The more dangerous and interesting, the better." Admiral So Young stared at the 2 humans. Even now, with their city covered in volcanic ash and their planet demonstrating its hostility, they were asking for directions to more dangerous places to visit. "Admiral," Dr. Haijun continued, "we have been discussing a joint expedition to explore some of the more extreme environments in your territory. There are several worlds marked as uninhabitable in your star charts that we would love to investigate. Those worlds are uninhabitable for good reason," Admiral So Young said weakly. "I am sure they are challenging," Captain Byung-soo agreed. "That is what makes them interesting. We have some ideas for adaptation techniques that might surprise you." Admiral So Young looked around at the impossible scene. Humans celebrating survival while covered in volcanic ash, asking for directions to the most dangerous places in the galaxy, treating a major natural disaster as an opportunity for cultural exchange. She realized that the Vorthak Empire faced a choice that would define their future. They could try to fight humanity, a species that treated extinction events as entertainment. They could try to avoid humanity, which would mean giving up half the galaxy as humans expanded into places too dangerous for anyone else, or they could do something the Empire had never done before. "Dr. Haijun," Admiral So Young said slowly, "would you be interested in a formal alliance between our peoples?" "That sounds wonderful," Dr. Haijun replied. "What did you have in mind?" "We could provide you with star charts showing the locations of the most dangerous worlds in our territory. In exchange, perhaps you could show us how you managed to thrive in impossible conditions." Captain Byung-soo grinned. "Admiral, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship." 3 months later, Supreme Chancellor He Young stood on the bridge of the flagship as it approached Kepler 438b, a Class 5 death world that had defeated 3 previous Vorthak expeditions. This time, they were not arriving as conquerors. They were arriving as students. On the planet's surface, human colonists were already building what they cheerfully called a nice little settlement, in conditions that should have been impossible for any life form to survive. The Vorthak Empire had spent 3,000 years conquering death worlds because they believed strength came from surviving hostile environments. Humans had taught them something far more valuable. True strength came from making any environment suitable for life to flourish. And perhaps most importantly, it was more fun when you did it with friends.